Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a little look at the STL Tones Tonality Wes Borland plugin. Is it just for Limp Bizkit tones, or can it do a little bit more than that? So before we get started today, and before we get started in diving into some tones, I just wanted to say that this is not a sponsored video or anything like that. STL Tones have not asked me to do this. They have not paid me to do this, whilst they have been kind enough to hook me up with the plugin. All thoughts and opinions are in fact my own. So I've been using the plugin for about 6 months now, and whilst it's got some amazing presets on there from Wes himself, covering the weird filtered full Nelson tones, hot dog tones, some chunky rhythms, and all other kinds of weird ethereal tones, I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into it and just see what else it can do. Can it cover the absolute bare necessities that you would want from a guitar plugin? So what I've done today, I've set up 4 different presets. We have got a clean, we've got a crunch tone, we've got a chunky rhythm sound, and a really nice lead sound. And I'm just going to explore those 4 presets, talk you through a little bit what I've set up in each one using everything that is available to me on the plugin. For the clean and the crunch tones, I'm going to be using my thin line Telecaster, which is equipped with some Lola pickups. And then for the rhythm and lead tones, I'm going to be using my Gibson USA 70s Flying V. That is completely stock. I've not changed the pickups or anything on that guitar. Both are strung up with my SIT 9-42 Power Wound nickel strings. So enough talking, let's hear what this plugin can really do. So I'm here with my trusty telly, and let's dive on into the clean sound, see what we're working with straight away. So it's a pretty 80s style glassy clean tone, which is what I was going for here anyway. So let's just see how I've dialed that one in. Using the Roland Jazz Chorus, the STL Borland plugin's got 3 different amps. You've got the Jazz Chorus, Selma Zodiac, and a VH4 diesel. Obviously I'm not using the diesel for the clean. So just going into the first channel here, brightness engage. We're not using any of the stomp boxes on this particular patch. And in terms of the cab use, you can mix and match here between all the different models, but I'm just using the Jazz Chorus with a SM57 and a Ribbon Royal 121 microphone. The SM57 is pretty much over the cone, the 121 a little bit off the cone, and I'm blending in more of that 57 there as well. The gate is off completely, so we want full dynamic response here, like listening to all those little overtones you get from the amp. And the resonance is engaged maximum on both sides here. I find it really adds a little bit of life and oomph to the sounds, particularly when working with digital here. And it's a nice inclusion on the plugin. But the effects is where most of the legwork's being done here. So not using the Echoplex style delay, the DD3 style delay I've engaged and put on modulation mode just to add again a little bit more of that 80s cheesy glassy sound. And the Ibanez chorus / flanger I've got set on flanger mode. And again, I'm running it, the depth and speed aren't very high, regen isn't very high as well, or the delay time, so it is just adding a bit more of a subtle effect, but it's very good for that kind of, if I put it in the middle position, like 80s, like Purple Rain. It's a really, really nice sound for that. But that is essentially how I've got the clean tone there. Whilst we've got the Telecaster, let's dive on in to the crunch sound with the Selmer Zodiac. Now, I've had no experience with Selmer amps, or in particular the Zodiac, which is what amp 3 is based off here. I'm running it into the hotter channel. It's got these really interesting sort of, I don't suppose you call them switches that shift where the EQ sits. So I've got it pretty mid-focused, and I'm driving the volume high to give a bit more break up there. Treble and bass just past noon. I am using the Big Muff on this though. Again, sustain, which is kind of like where your gain comes from, is set pretty low. So I'm actually running it a little bit more like you would traditionally run an overdrive into it. So if I just quickly take it out, it's pretty bright and spanky, whereas if I put it in, it just adds a real nice thick woolliness to the sound, which I really dig. The cabinet, again, I've gone for the actual paired cab with it. Like I say, you can mix and match if you want, or load in your own IRs. Like on the clean sound as well, resonance all the way up. Did a little bit more experimentation with mic positioning. Again, I've gone with a 57 and a 121. It's just my favourite combination. But the SM57 is pretty far out on the edge of the speaker, as is the 121 there. And just for a little bit of, to make it a little bit less dry sounding, I've added in that DD3, but this time on the analog setting, but it's... You can hear when it's blended in with the sound, it's not really doing as much of the legwork there. But this has been a really interesting tone to create, and I would probably say it's number 2 in terms of my favourites there. But my favourite is the rhythm. So at the click of a finger, you will see a flying V appear in my lap, and we're going to dive into the rhythm sound. So we are back. A very seamless transition there. But this is potentially one of my favourite tones that I've got out of the Wes Borland plugin. I went for a bit more of like an Adam Jones themed rhythm sound. Adam Jones, one of my favourite guitarists. I'd say Tool's guitar tones are some of my favourite, and it's amazing that you've got the VH4 on this plugin. So let's just hear what we're working with. Take that noise gate off. So running the signal a little bit hot there, so let's just dock that back. So this guitar tone is, again, not using any of the stomp boxes in front. The one thing that's interesting, having not had much experience with the Diesel, was it's not a super tight amplifier. So it was very interesting trying to get a little bit more articulation in the low end out of it. So you can see the EQ there, running the mids and treble a little hotter, but gain is only just past noon. Presence and depth on the amp just docking back a little bit. And then in terms of the cabinet, I didn't go with the matched cab for this. I actually went with the sort of oversized Messer cab that's available. Again, 57 and a ribbon mic here, leaning towards the 57 for a little bit more bite out of it as well. But just to tighten things up here, I have actually cut a fair amount of low end off the ribbon side of things, because ribbon mic's where you get your depth anyway. So let me just bring that gate back. But there's not huge amounts of saturation behind it. It's still a clear sound. You know, when playing those chords, you can still hear the definition of every string there, which is what I like. Quite a bit of mid-range to it, but I like a pretty honky rhythm sound there. But I just think it's a really cool Adam Jones-esque style tone you can get. It's not obviously directly ripping off, but you can definitely see the influence. And then it comes to the solo channel. So with this one, still on the diesel, using channel 4 for a little bit more push and saturation, more treble and mids for a bit more cut through there as well. Using the same cabinet, but mic positioning is a little bit different, more on the outside of the cones there. And again, a bit more of a low cut EQ as well. I have engaged the DD3 for this as well on the analog setting, just for a nice warm sounding delay. I've got a DD7 actually that I really like the analog setting on, so it's a pretty familiar tone. But let's hear what we've got. So I like my lead sounds soaked in delay. It just helps with a little bit of feel and also hides all of my many mistakes. But it's a really nice lead sound. I wouldn't say it's my favourite lead sound I've ever got. It's quite spongy. You can hear that in the low mids there. But it does cut through really nicely. I've done a few recordings with it, and it does cut through well against that rhythm sound that I've got dialed in. But between the four of them, I think it's always nice to have a good rhythm, a good lead, a good clean, and a good crunch sound. You can cover most bases with those four tones. So there you have it, guys. There are four of my favourite tones you can get from the STL Wes Borland plugin that aren't stock featured presets. Now, there are two things on this plugin that I really wish it had. The first up, I really wish it had a reverb, some sort of effects pedal on the plugin. It's something that I know Wes, I'm pretty sure he's got a Strymon Big Sky on his pedal board, and there's definitely, he's a massive user of reverb still. So I did think it was a little bit of a shame for there to not be some sort of nice expansive reverb available on the plugin. I know for a lot of ambient tones and even leads, it's something that I tend to use quite a lot, and I know a lot of other players will. So whether this was a decision from STL or Wes himself, I'm not so sure, but I did think it was a shame that it was missing that. The second thing I wish that this plugin had was some kind of transpose feature. I know that on a lot of the neural DSP plugins, particularly with their sort of X updates they're doing on a lot of them, the transpose function that they include on those is absolutely dynamite. It's the same one you get on the Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex, and it really is a massively useful tool. I know that STL have just added the transpose feature on the Amp Hub suite / plugin that they do. I've been using that for a little bit now, and it is absolutely fantastic. So whether this is something that we will see in a future update, I'm not so sure, but it would be nice maybe if they did revisit the tonality plugins in the future, like the Josh Middleton one as well, and did add this transpose function, because it is a really key feature. But that is it for today's video, guys. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you thought of those tones I set up. Is there anything you'd change? Did you like them at all? Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way for me to obviously upload those into the plugin, so hopefully I've gone through the settings enough, and if you want to set up those tones yourself, then you can. Let me know in the comments as well if there's any other videos you'd like to see in the future. But until the next video, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.